the only thing you have to do is walk in your truth. I mean,
Mhm.
that really truly is. And mine just happens to be, I love the creative process. I love the B2B work that we do with builders and developers.
Mhm.
I just love being in that space. I love designing and bringing to market new communities where people can really live their best life and thrive.
Hey, I'm Brooke Jean, therapist, recovering perfectionist, and struggling working mom on a mission to normalize normal. If you're an overwhelmed, high-achieving, and secretly anxious mama, struggling to balance it all and on the brink of burnout, you are in the right place. Here is where we talk about hard things like balancing work and family life, mental health, and how to navigate life-altering transitions. Nothing is too taboo here. In my conversations, I'll teach you how to let go of who you think you're supposed to be in order to create the life you've always wanted. Get ready to embrace your messy, shed the shoulds, and find freedom through a life unperfected. This is the Unperfected Pod.
Welcome back, lovely, to the Unperfected Pod. I am so happy and grateful you are here. And I am just thrilled to pieces for you to hear this riveting, expansive conversation that I got to have with my friend, my client, an extraordinary woman, Angela Harris. Angela Harris is an American interior designer, chief executive officer, mother, and thought leader. At her renowned interior architecture firm, Angela has spent 25 years working directly with the nation's most prominent architects, builders, and developers. Her robust experience in market-driven design, coupled with a master's in sustainable design, has led her to embark on a design journey inspired by creativity, philosophy, science, and technology. Angela is currently earning her PhD in visual arts, pursuing research in the field of aesthetics design and the built environment through IDSVA. Angela and her talented team collaborate on all aspects of master plan communities, commercial design, model homes, clubhouses, sales centers, hospitality, multifamily apartment communities, and luxury residential design services. My loves, this was such a special conversation because Trio has been my client for 3 years now. And one of their talented designers on the team, Chloe, is the one that designed my podcast studio and painted the mural. And so to have Angela be my first in-person guest in the new podcast studio just meant the absolute world to me. Here's some of the key things that you get to look forward to in this juicy conversation. We talked about her story of becoming and how she started out. She actually started Trio almost 25 years ago, launched her own business at just 22 or 23 years old. We talked about kind of her journey from that moment all the way up until now and how she's built such a well-renowned, extraordinary brand. We talked about how everybody is born creative and how it's such an important piece to tap into your God-given gifts and how being innovative is actually an opportunity for magic. We talked about having the audacity to have and hold such a big vision and how some of her elements to success are being an ongoing learner and having a real deep gratitude practice. We talked about balancing the masculine and the feminine for results and how enjoying the ride is absolutely paramount. This conversation was so extraordinary. I cannot wait for you to hear from Angela, hear her story, and just be in her energetic sphere of innovation. You will feel inspired. And I also want to remind you that doors are open to 2025's cohort of the Unperfected Mastermind. This is for the innovative, trailblazing, heart-led leader who is ready to go all in on her life in 2025. She is ready to take off the mask and remember who she is, reconnecting to her gifts and her power, and to start, launch, grow her business, her leadership, and her freaking fulfillment. All the details of this extraordinary program are linked in the show notes, but I would love to have you if you are a woman in business and you are ready to do things in a way that creates more aliveness, more joy, and more ease, but leaves a freaking imprint on the planet. Get your fanny in there, babe, and enjoy this conversation. Welcome back to the Unperfected Pod. I have my first guest in the podcast studio. Angela Harris, thank you so much for being my first in-person guest ever.
Oh my gosh.
In the new podcast studio.
Well, thank you. I mean, what an honor. I can feel the energy.
Yeah! Okay.
Yeah.
So the listener has heard me talk about Trio, has heard me talk about you, has heard me talk about some of the work that I've done for Trio. So, and they know that somebody on your team who's extraordinarily gifted, shout out to Chloe, was the one that actually designed the studio and painted the mural.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I wanted you to be the first guest to come into this space just because Trio means so much to me.
Oh my gosh, you're going to make me cry. There's a little thing you need to know with me, Brooke, though, is when I really get into my authentic zone, I might cry a lot.
Yeah. Girl.
This is amazing.
We cry.
Yes.
We get goosebumps. We're both very intuitive and spiritual and sensitive that way.
100%.
I feel like that's one of the things that you and I have gotten about each other since we met. Mm-hmm. It was like we would get together and like a transmission would happen energetically that almost sometimes we verbally can't even keep up with. It was just like my energy would meet your energy and we knew that we had some magic to make together.
Yeah, 100%.
So can we just start with your story?
Yes.
A little bit about you to get the listener to know. They have already heard your extraordinary bio. They already know you're kind of a big deal. I know you don't think you're kind
not
of
a big deal.
I know you don't wear that, but you are. Like when I talk about you, I'm like, she's extraordinary. She is unlike any other innovator I've ever met. She's built multiple companies. Yes. She's a go-getter. She's a mom.
Yes.
She's a leader.
My biggest job ever, most important.
Why is that the one that stresses us out the most?
Well, there's a lot to stress out about there.
That is. Like, we can crush business, but parenting, what are we actually doing?
Right.
So did you always know that you wanted to be a creative or in design? So let's kind of start with, when did you know you wanted to become an interior designer?
I didn't know that I wanted to be a creative, but you know this about me, Brooke, is I truly, truly believe that everybody's born a creative. I think that all human beings are born creative, and then they start to lose it around 4th grade. And you and I have talked about that a lot. We're 4 years old. So I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I had grown up with grandparents and family members that were entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
don't know if I knew that part of your story.
Yes. It's a very important part of my story. So my grandparents had 10 kids. And they all worked in a family business, and it was a printing shop. So there was a creative element to it. I mean, we had a whole art department, which was amazing.
Wow.
And I went to work at like 7 years old, stuffing invoices in envelopes for my grandparents, for my grandfather in his basement while jazz was going, like to get the accounting out.
Wow.
And so I always was surrounded by entrepreneurship.
Wow.
So when I went to my undergrad is in business from CU Boulder.
Woo!
And
Go Buffs.
Go Buffs.
Yes.
And I was very happy with that. I mean, I think some of the best business masterminds are the most creative people. But when I got out of school, I went to work for an engineering firm at Rocky Flats, and I kind of got pigeonholed in the marketing and human resources department. And I loved my team members. I really loved my boss, but I was like, I just can't, there's not enough creative juices flowing through me right now. And so I quit my job. It was the summer, and I quit my job, and I said, I just got to figure out what's next, and there was no rush. I mean, I just wanted to reset. And I thought I would take the summer off. So I answered an ad for an interior design program with this big wig interior designer that they had recruited from Chicago to start this big interior design service at Colorado Lifestyles, which was a furniture outlet at the time.
Okay.
And I kind of got under her wing, and she started to teach me all about CAD and how to read blueprints and how to design spaces. And I was like, oh, this is it. And so I went back to school. I was like, I have to work and be entrenched in this stuff.
Yeah.
But I also have to go back to school. And so I went back for 2 years with interior design, and I kind of built this program, and I built a book of business. I was really good at building relationships. And I remember right out of the gate, they introduced this interior design program, and I was kind of the highest ranking salesperson / interior designer. And I was like, I can do this. And then I got to the point where I was limited again. You know, when you hit those plateaus and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I hit a plateau and what's next?
Yes.
And I could do the fabrics and I could do the furniture and I could do the accessories and I could do all that, but I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do the tile and the lighting and everything. And so I quit again and I started a business.
Oh my gosh. So how old were you when you started a business?
Oh, I was like 22, 23. I was a baby.
Wow.
I had no idea what I was doing. None.
22 or 23, you went out on your own.
Yeah. I saved some money. At the time, actually, when I started the business, I only had $500 to my name.
So you bootstrapped it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I knocked on my parents' door and I was like, hey, can I move back in with you for a little bit?
Yeah.
So I can save some money and start this business. And they were like, oh, no.
You're like, yeah.
I mean, they were always super supportive. They always have been. I mean, I couldn't do it without them. But, you know, that's the worry for your parents when you leave the coop and the nest and then all of a sudden you're knocking on the door to come back.
Well, in 22 and 23, starting a business, that is a huge responsibility for a precious little being. Like, I know when we are 22 and 23, we think we're old and big girls now, but like my son is 21. Yeah. And I look at his precious little, not fully developed prefrontal cortex. Yes. And I'm like, I don't see him, love him to death, launching a business in a year. Do you know what I mean? Like that was very bold and brave of you.
Yeah. It took a lot of dedication and discipline and hustle.
How did you get your first client?
It was a hustle. I hooked up with the real estate community because I knew that they would be a great outlet. Yeah. And so they quickly led me to builders, and then builders led me to developers. And then once I was working with developers in a true B2B capacity and designing models and designing new community development as it relates to multifamily, that was it for me because I could use both the business skill set as well as the design skill set. And I loved the fusion. I love the intersection between left and right brain. And yeah, the rest is history.
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize that you started your business that young.
Yeah. We're going to be we're celebrating our 25th anniversary next year.
Oh my gosh. Trio is going to be 25.
Yeah, I incorporated
So did you become Trio right away or what were you to start?
We are Trio.
Wow.
So I went out, we left the furniture store and I took the designer that they had recruited as well as another designer with me. And so it was three of us. That's where the Trio came from. But after 6 months, they were like, whoa, this is way too much work. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what building a business is. It's work. It's not meant to be easy. It's not, we're human beings. We're not meant to not do hard things.
Yes.
And so they wanted out.
I have to double click on what you just said.
Yeah.
We are human beings. We are not meant not to do hard things.
Right. Well, that's my perspective on it.
I feel like we forget that sometimes. I feel like we forget how scrappy we can be, how resourceful we can be, how we can transmute pain into power and purpose, how like we really don't test our limits until the universe tests us and then we see what we got and then we level up. But it's like, we got to keep testing ourselves because we are capable of so much more than we realize.
Right. Well, and that there's joy in that process. And I think that a lot of people make mistakes and they want it to be easy and you got to do the work. Or if it's hard, then it must be painful. And not all hard things are painful. You know, if you can find joy in the process. And I really, really loved building a business and I loved the relationships I had with our clients. And I loved designing spaces and really pushing the creative boundaries, you know? And I had some amazing clients, I still do, that allow us to push those creative boundaries. They don't put us in a box. And that's when you know it's real good.
Well, yeah, you're actually like out there collaborating, co-creating what's coming in the design industry. At least that's from where I'm standing. That's what I'm witnessing happening.
Yes, we like to be on the forefront of things. We've always been on the forefront of things. I'm a true visionary through and through. There's no question in my bones or body.
It's like extraordinary. It is like unlike anything I've ever seen in my life.
I see crazy visions and multiple visions. That's the other thing is I think sometimes people chase a vision and they're trying to get to the end point or the tangible, not realizing that there's multiplicity in those visions and that flow and that journey. And you know, we're not meant to just always pinpoint the tangible, you know?
So do you feel like that is a God-given talent for you? And how do you strengthen that muscle?
Yes, for whatever
It's like
reason.
both. Like, I feel like you've been given a gift because, again, it's just like who you are in your bones. I can attest to that. And I feel like you do a lot to like stay abreast and to exercise whatever your gifts are. So will you speak on being an innovator, being a creative, and continuing to push yourself forward? What are some things you do?
Yes. For whatever reason, God gave me that God-given creative charge. That's what I call it. It's a creative charge. I look at everything as a creative process. This is a creative process. Walking through that door was a creative process. Everything for me is a creative process. And so I cherish that gift. I wake up every morning. I don't start my day without a prayer first. I start my day in gratitude. And for me, it's also because I've been given those talents, I feel like I have a bit of an obligation to continue to expand and evolve and, hopefully at some point inspire others to be as creative. Like there's a lot of power in the creative process, from healing powers to, a lifelong learning, journey, to just realizing that life itself is just the greatest party or gift that you've ever been invited to, right? And how are you going to align yourself with certain energy frequencies so that you can enjoy that process and really lift the people up around you as well,
Which you're already doing. I really feel like when people are even just in your presence, there's like an energetic exchange where it brings forth their creative forces. Like you're inspiring just to be with.
Yes. And that was one lesson that I've just recently learned. And I've had, because I'm a true visionary, I have to be surrounded by the right people in order to be successful. I mean, that's just it. We all do, you know, in any capacity.
Highly recommend that for anybody who has a big dream.
Right. Absolutely.
And a big purpose on this planet.
Yeah. But, for me, I'm so passionate about creativity. And I think there's a whole nother element there too of how I got to that place. But I'm so heavily passionate about creativity that I always wanted to go out there and inspire others, And I found like, it's not my job to inspire others, if people are open to receiving it, and I'm just over here doing my thing authentically and doing what I love to do and worrying about all the inner stuff that I have going on, then you just naturally create that other, the alignment with that other energy. And so,
yes, that's called influence.
Yeah.
And that is the best and easiest way to get people excited and to move forward toward your vision, is being influential by standing in your truth, your gifts, vibrating at the frequency of your purest freaking alignment and aliveness.
Yeah.
And some people will be drawn to that and some people will be drawn away. We don't take it personally either way, because everyone's on a journey, honey, and we are not here to decide.
Nope.
But when we stop trying to prove something or get something and we can stay more in what the expression is, I find at least, we draw the right people to us.
Yeah.
And then we get to just play in the field of potentiality.
Yeah. The only thing you have to do is walk in your truth. I mean, that really, truly is. And mine just happens to be, I love the creative process. I love the B2B work that we do with builders and developers. I just love being in that space. I love designing and bringing to market new communities where people can really live their best life and thrive. And there is a tangible component to that, of the lens in which we look at design, I mean, there has to be that. And we have to continually build that framework through increased knowledge and gaining that knowledge over and over again. But that's what I mean by being a lifelong learner, I think is a very important aspect to creativity. And being curious, constantly being curious. It's my favorite thing. And asking questions and going deeper, like ask deep questions and listen. And it's just, all of that is part of the creative process.
Oh, I love that so much. And you, speaking of being a never-ending learner, you just got your PhD in neuroaesthetics.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
You guys, when she announced that she was going to get her PhD, we were all like, how is this queen going to do it? But when she's committed to something, she makes the magic happen. But will you talk a little bit about what neuroaesthetics is and what inspired you to keep learning about that? Because I do feel like that is something that is very special about Trio.
Yes. So I'm even expanding on that and learning more about that. Neuroaesthetics is a very, very important component. And that is, how do people resonate or react to the design decisions that we have made neurologically. You know, how do people walk into a space with a built environment and have a really amazing reaction, like a destination, I want to be here reaction, versus an avoidable, like, I can't be here. And we've always done it. I mean, we've always talked about it in the design industry, is people walk into a space and they either love it or they hate it. You don't know why, but they do. So it's not anything necessarily we're doing that's new, but we're going deeper and we're asking deeper questions. And if we know where our consumers are at, for example, 90% of Americans are dealing with some type of mental illness. That's really important. And a high concentration of that is our 55 plus demographic. You know, when we design around consumer behavior. So that's nothing new, but you have to go deeper and you have to ask, well, why is that trending? Why are 90% of Americans dealing with mental illness, and how are we in our industry contributing to that? Well, you spend 80% of your time indoors. So are we designing spaces where people neurologically can thrive? And there is some underlying framework to that. And so we're trying to balance that, the science of design. And what I'm trying to do is bring that together with kind of the philosophy, the artist philosophy of, okay, but there's a whole intuitive component to that too. The intuitive mind and feelings are just as important as the neurological reaction. We just talked about it downstairs. I mean, you cannot take one in consideration without the other. Otherwise, we're not looking at it holistically. So how do those two things meet in the middle? And how are we developing and making our design decisions based off that knowledge we know so that we can create better spaces?
Oh, it's so good. And I feel like I've always known intuitively that an environment speaks to your subconscious.
Yes.
But now we're learning that it actually can dysregulate your nervous system, can have like restrict your breath work patterns.
All of it.
Like can make you feel stress or make you feel ease, and putting that level of intentionality into design for the communities that you guys are building is just next level.
Yeah.
And I don't think that everybody's having these kinds of conversations. I don't. Like, how are we as an industry either contributing to a problem or helping solve a problem like mental health in America?
Yes.
But I feel like you're always looking at like all the things like, well, that's a thing. Let's talk about it. You know, the green thing was before that. Like you're always looking at like, what is the best way to keep creating?
Yes. I'm very driven by purpose and passion and, you know, doing my part in this world in the short amount of time that I'm here, you know, and I think that's what drives a lot of the innovation is the purpose. You know, I don't want to design a space just to design a space. Anybody can do that. And that's fine. Everybody plays a different role. That's great. But I know in my heart of hearts that I was placed here with these talents to do a certain type of work. And that's everything we just talked about.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. What do you think, especially for women, is one of the bigger blocks to accessing and unearthing our creative geniuses? Because we both agree that everyone's a creative.
Yeah.
And we're here to ignite that spark. But what do you think is a block for people to their creativity? Especially
for women, I believe it's, you know, those limiting beliefs, the confidence thing. We all have that little insecurity voice. I mean, I shut mine up real quick these days, but that took a lot of practice and experience and failure. I mean, not being afraid to fail is so important. And I would say I've learned a lot more from my failures than any successes that I've had over 25 years, you know, so I've never been afraid to fail, and I'm not afraid to take risks either. And I think sometimes it's hard for women, you know, that fear factor can be really limiting, and you have to strengthen that muscle.
And you have to be okay with people not always getting it and agreeing with you.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's so hard because we're so conditioned of like, be a good girl, be kind, be nurturing. And those are beautiful qualities to have.
Yes.
But to be a true innovator like you have to go against the grain sometimes.
Absolutely.
You think out of the box. You're not doing what everyone else is doing. And that comes with a lot of misunderstanding sometimes.
Yeah.
Which we are not primed to tolerate that very well.
Right.
Right.
No,
and
we're not.
Also, anytime you're in the unknown, which if you're innovating is always your buddy fear is going to show up to play. And so it's not about removing the fear, because that is a normal biological response to being in the unknown.
That's right.
It's about making peace for it, loving on it, having it be part of your internal family system, and continuing to take action from your highest and best self, what I call the inner CEO.
100%.
She has a vision. She knows that she's here for a reason. Fear can be at the table, but she's not sitting at the head of the table.
Absolutely.
She's saying, I'm scared. I'm saying, I get it. We have work to do here though, babe.
Yeah.
So I feel like it is layered. Like, number one, you have to be okay with haters, basically, whether it's people who don't understand your business decisions, the risks that you're willing to take, all of that, and they don't agree or they don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, how many times are people like, Angela?
More times than I can count.
She's like, my executive team this morning.
Yes. I mean, at any given minute, at any given day. Yes.
I literally had to apologize to Megan on my team over a Christmas dinner about like how many ideas that I have. You're a generator too, right?
Yes.
In human design.
Yes.
So we have the energy if we're excited.
Yes.
And we are a never ending plethora of ideas.
Yes.
And my poor team, because it's like, if I'm not doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, and then I'm doing 4 things at once, and then I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. And I'm like, I am in 2025 going to try to streamline so I can add more potency, because that's really a core value of mine.
Yeah.
And I also am learning about myself that I get kind of bored at a certain point in an initiative. Yes. And then, or like, I don't know if it's ADHD. I don't know if it's energy. I don't know if it's mental health. I don't know if it's perimenopause, but halfway
it's all of that.
Halfway in, I'm like, squirrel on to the next new thing.
Yes.
And so I'm really going to challenge myself in this next year to like pick a couple things that I just know light me up to the core, because there's flexibility and creation within them.
Yes.
And seeing things through and making them potent as fuck. But it is, when you're an innovator, when you're a generator, all these things, it's like we're a never ending well. And then you're like beyond anything I've ever seen, never ending well of ideas. How do you actually decide what to move forward on? I guess that's the question that's emerging.
So that's another important lesson that I've learned over the last several years is you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
And I have a lot, it's another thing that I'm incredibly grateful for is our executive team, and Drake, of course,
Love
who is
that.
like, he is my grounding force of all grounding forces. And I'm incredibly grateful that I get to work alongside these 6 individuals at Trio that help me stay grounded and help me stay focused. And in that, I've learned from them. You know, I've learned from them how, and especially this last year, the importance of focus and the importance of discipline, to the tune of looking at the business in an entirely different lens or philosophy, you know, and getting really, really excited about what that's going to allow us to do. But that's all comes down to, you know, being grateful for the gifts that are surrounded you. Mostly in my case, it's the people, and really celebrating and knowing of your heart and hearts what you're really good at and how do you capitalize on the strengths of the people around you, and how do you capitalize on your own strengths, and not being afraid. I mean, for me, I'm in a certain role where, you know, I can't be afraid to make decisions. Luckily, I've never been afraid to make decisions. I don't mind the swift course correct. I don't mind the pivots. What gets, you know, one thing that really drives me crazy more than anything is when a decision can't be made. And so I've never had that, you know, but I understand why. But I think in a CEO role, it's important to take calculated risks, to do the work and be able to course correct when you need to course correct. But I can't even remember what the question was.
You're leaning on your team.
Yeah,
the question was like, how, when you have so many brilliant ideas and all of them literally could work when you put the right force behind them.
Yeah.
How do you choose? Because, you know, there is only so much in time in one day.
Well, and getting really thoughtful around the strategy of each of those initiatives and each of those visions and what's going to take you further fastest. You know, that's where I'm kind of at. And life cycle of Trio is I really want to have a growth mindset over the next 5 years. I think that, you know, part of the dream and vision of Trio was to always provide as many creative platforms as we possibly could for the most talented people in the industry. And we have the most talented people in the industry.
The best team.
I mean, so they deserve to have projects come in through our door that they get really excited to work on.
Yeah.
And so that's part of our goal, is to make sure that those creative outlets are always there.
So what is on your like vision list for next year?
We did a really good job this year of investing in our people and our
Mm-hmm.
processes and even profit. I mean, we took a lot of profit and we reinvested it back in the business, or I should say equity.
Nice.
And we reinvested it back in the business. So I'm really super excited about that. It is allowing us to create a very stabilization through infrastructure, which will allow us to scale up or down. And that gets me really excited. You know, I think M&A strategies are back on the table and discussions are starting to bubble up with an M&A strategy. And
what's an M&A strategy for the listener?
Merger and acquisitions. So really excited about what that has to offer in the future as well.
This is the first I'm hearing of that.
Yeah. Okay. We're back in the mindset we were at pre-acquisition.
Yeah.
You know, where we really were interested in growing the brand, and now we have the people in place to really do that and seize that opportunity if that's what we choose to do.
If it's the right fit, and you'll know.
And the timing is right and all the stars align.
Yeah.
But we're conscious of it, and we're conscious and we're very aware of the position that we're in today to seize those opportunities. And so I get very excited about that. Having all the right people in the right place makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, as I've had the honor to be in your world and the team's world for the last 3 years now, what we've been able to do in terms of that stabilization piece, right? Yeah. You went through a big boom, you went through the slowdown, right, coming on the heels of the last acquisition, right? These are very challenging. Anybody who's ever done this before will tell you.
Yes.
These are big girl challenges here that we're talking about. And to go through that while finding and retaining the best talent, while strengthening processes, while remaining at the, you know, cutting edge of innovation, while making the brand stronger, while it's just like, while adding in someone like me to come in and do wellness and energy coaching. Like, and then I look at the core team that you have now.
Yeah.
And like, it could make me emotional because I know what we've been through.
Yeah.
And we have a killer team with a killer leadership team, and then your innovation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're fucking unstoppable, friends.
Yeah, we're unstoppable.
And now we just need to like remember how unstoppable we are, tap into our creativity, up level our identity, up level our frequency, and start playing in the realms that are just so fun to dance in, that you and I, you know, especially in the last couple of years, have been learning about and playing in.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be so fun from the place of stability to just continue to frolic, if you will, into what's possible in the next year.
Yeah.
But you can't do that. You can't do that when you don't have that core team.
No.
And we're not talking 3 employees here. I mean, we're talking 65 employees here.
Yeah.
Guys.
And
we give some perspective.
And we got up as high as 90.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Girl, we couldn't staff with the growth that you guys were receiving.
Yes.
And then it's like when things kind of started going down, you guys still remained a lot more stable than what else I was seeing out there, to be totally honest with you, with some of the huge decisions companies have been making in the last couple of years. And I guess here's another thing I want to touch on is somehow you've always remained committed to like investing in your people on whatever level, right? Beyond the work that I've been able to do. It's like, even when things are crunchy, it's like always a thing. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes.
Why is that important to you?
Well, the people are the brand, you know, and I think that maintaining the integrity of the brand and the integrity of the team, the collective team, is so important. And so it has been a very intentional decision, especially this last year when our commercial business took a little bit of a dive. It was a very intentional strategy to hang on to the collective team members that we have. But again, it's all about having the right people in the right place and investing in those people and them willing to invest back in the brand. I mean, it has to go both ways. It's a two-way street. And once we see that, you know, we'll do everything we can to maintain the integrity of that team. No question ever. So we're really excited. And we're really excited that because we were able to do that, and we were able to do that with the equity position that we have been in and the cash position that we have been in after 25 years, which is I'm so grateful for, that we can do that. We can, you know, take a down year, you know, when our commercial business is not as robust, and continue to invest in the company because we're in that position. And I'm very grateful for that too, you know, and now, you know, I think we're going to just see it all unfold the next several years, just expand and expand and expand and expand.
Yeah. But I want you to know that not every CEO, not every leader, not every owner of every company does that kind of thing.
Well, thank you.
That differentiates you. And even just like you and I having a conversation before we were recording about gratitude, like I know you get it. Like we genuinely leverage gratitude as one of our superpowers to success.
Yes.
Wholeheartedly, like bring you to your tears, the feeling and energy of gratitude, not just I'm grateful for this and this and this.
It is in my core.
It is yes, it is. I know it is.
Every minute of every day.
And I know that and I feel that with you.
Yeah.
But again, that differentiates you. And this is why I think we need more women in business doing big things. And I really believe that we will change the planet and the health of the planet and then how we're behaving on the planet when more women are stepping into big roles and leading big missions with heart.
Yes.
Not ego.
Yeah.
And really genuinely caring about people, caring about the environment, caring, like using gratitude. Like think how many CEOs genuinely embody that.
Yeah.
And this is their invitation to join the party, because going back to what you were saying earlier, like this is hard work. And what makes it worth it is the joy and the purpose of it. And guess what gets you to joy? Gratitude for what is.
Yeah.
And being grateful for the stage that you're in now versus waiting for whatever the next measure of success is going to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely an element of, you got to balance the heart with the mind when you're in a CEO role.
Totally.
There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving facets. And it's really important that you come to the table and you can, you have the emotional intelligence to balance both, you know, but I think a lot of times either the heart's lost or the mind's lost, and you can go down a rabbit hole that's not probably the best rabbit hole. So I always tried to balance those two things. I think for me, humanitarianism is one of our brand pillars. And, if we're not leading with empathy, and you can lead with empathy and also lead an incredible organization and make really smart business decisions. If we're not doing that and we're not, really investing in our people over and over and over again, yet we're out there saying that's one of our brand pillars, then what are we doing? So that to me is part of walking in our truth as well, is we say we're humanitarians, we say we're design innovators, we say we're community builders. Well, we better start internally. And I always start inward and work my way out.
She's always on a journey, honey. This is the other thing that we love about each other. We're always on a journey. Like, what is the next level of consciousness?
Yes.
What is the next level? And so, you have this beautiful balance of the masculine and the feminine.
Yes.
Because most of your clients, right, you work with a male-dominated industry.
Yes.
So we have to be able to speak strategy and execution and numbers and all of those things. They're important. Yeah. But I do think people misconstrue things like empathy, and they misunderstand, like, if you are a leader with empathy, you're just like making space for us to not bring our best. And I disagree with that. I believe that you can be extraordinarily empathic and stand for greatness.
100%.
And that's the combo of like, I expect greatness with empathy. Like they're both can exist, but it's not one or the other. It's not empathy means people can bring, half-assed stuff to the table. It's like, no, I see your potential. I'm going to hold that.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to expect always. And I still am an empathetic person. I understand like what it means to be human. I understand what it means to have hard times. But if I don't stand for your greatness, who will? And I think that's what great leaders do, is they can see the potential in their people and they hold them to their potential
100%.
When they get distracted.
100%.
Like you hold the vision, not the circumstance.
That's right. That's right. And our brand expects a lot. It expects a lot from our people. It expects a lot from the community and our clients and so forth. And so we have to hold people accountable, and we have to hold people accountable to moving away from, being complacent. It's, we have to continually, our all hands meeting last week was all about raising the bar. I know we've had great measures of success, and we should celebrate those successes, and we should celebrate them again. But then we should get back to work and we should raise the bar.
Yeah.
Otherwise we will become obsolete, and I'm just not willing to make that sacrifice or that compromise in a world that has so many different opportunities and gifts that are just ready to be seized, and especially in the creative world.
Oh, I just got the goosebumps over that one.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I'm thinking about the people that are resistant to change. And I'm like, how do we shift the whole mindset to like, it is opportunity, endless, limitless opportunity for us to play with. once we can get past whatever our fear is telling us about change.
Yeah. Well, you and I talked about that over lunch, and one of the things we're going to concentrate at Trio this year, it's very important to me that everybody understands we are all creatives. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what you're doing within the firm. Every process is a creative process. So how do we look at those things through a creative lens? It's not just about designing the project. It's about putting the budgets together. It's about pushing it through procurement. It's about installation. All of those are
messaging.
Yes, those
culture.
Are all creative processes. And how do we celebrate that creativity and be fierce in that conviction? That's the one thing that's really important to me, and why I fought so hard for a vision and a mission statement. Because for me, the vision is, what do we believe? And we believe that design matters. We believe that there's value in the creative process, that the creative process can make a better world. We believe all those things, otherwise we wouldn't be there. And so I fought really hard to have a vision statement that is separate from the mission statement. The mission statement to me are, what are the actionable items we're going to do?
The how.
Yes, to tie into that. And so we delivered that last week. I think it went over really, really well. And there's very clear, concise roadmap for 2025. And all we have to do now is align with that dream, baby.
Ooh! 2 snaps in the Z formation, honey. It's happening. It's done. It's already done.
That's right.
It's already done.
But be fierce about it. Be fierce and know that, be open to receiving it. It's so important.
Yeah. Say yes.
Yes.
There's a million reasons why your body wants to say no, but do the work so you can say yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Because then you'll find yourself living in a totally different reality.
That's right. That's right.
But does it take audacity? Does it take courage? Does it take risk? Yeah. But do you want to stay where you are? Do you want to play in new realms, which just bring you more love, abundance, aliveness, all the shit you actually want anyway?
Yeah. And look, we tried it the other way. I'm not so sure it works so well. Time to pivot.
Listen. She was trying real hard back in those days.
Yeah.
All force and brute and no passion. I think passion will take you so much further than anything else ever will, or it will help you unlock the unimaginable.
Yeah.
If you have a big enough why in your heart, the how shows up. I believe that wholeheartedly. It's like, if I can see where we're going, I trust that we can, because everything is a creative process and it's alive.
Yeah.
Meaning it can move in any direction at any time. And so we're open to that. It's like, how we're going to get there will show.
Yeah. And when you pair that passion with the implementation frequencies, it needs to thrive and expand, then you're just pure magic.
Yeah. And that's where we want to be.
Yes, always.
Angela, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, this has been so lovely. I wish I could start every Monday like this. This is amazing.
I know you started your Monday with me.
I know.
We're just kicking off with magic.
Magic.
This is how we should start our Monday. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for being such a powerhouse in the world and showing what's possible as a mother, as a creative, as a leader. Because you really do show what it can be. And so keep doing the damn thing. And I'm just grateful that I'm even in the world of Trio. And I'm excited to see what we're going to continue to co-create, because it's only just going to get better and better and better.
Well, thank you for your creativity and your voice. And thank you so much for having me today. I'm incredibly grateful to be in your energy frequency.
Hey, Mama, if you made it to the end of this episode, I just want to virtually high five you, because you've said yes to the opportunity of taking better care of yourself. And that is so meaningful and so amazing. You have no idea the ripple of goodness that's to come. If you've been enjoying the show, if you've been finding it helpful, if you've laughed a little or learned a new technique, will you do me a favor? Will you make sure that you're following the show, that you've given us a 5-star rating and left a review? That will absolutely help us get this podcast into more heads and hearts of as many mamas as possible, because when we heal the mother, we heal the world. Also, if there's a specific episode that you've loved, will you make sure to share it with a friend? Just send them the link or share it on social media, and make sure you tag me at Brooke Jean unPerfected, because I absolutely love seeing that this is actually giving you the impact that you so desire and deserve. Thank you so much, mamas. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves and therefore each other.